Welcome back to Success Again. And now, Dick Heatherton.
And welcome back to Success Again. You know, Ralph Waldo Emerson once said, self-trust is the first secret to success. But if you're not writing well and you're not connecting with readers of your presentations, the emails, the snail mails, whatever, you can't trust yourself. Forget about self-trust. And that's why author, speaker Charles Eichner's here with us. Charlie, he's fought the good fight. He's taught at Yale, Harvard, Holy Cross. But it's not just theory. He teaches business people, even journalists, how to express themselves clearly and concisely with the written word. He's got a new book out, and of course it's called The Writing Code, and it's also a course. And I'm telling you, folks, it's an essential. It's a necessity today. You can't fake it with bad writing. If you are, you're going nowhere. Welcome, Charlie Euchner.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure, Charlie. You know, I'd like to start with this one question. Where are we going wrong?
The human species evolved to tell stories. People love telling stories. People love hearing stories. And when you get them involved in teaching them tricks of the trade, how to do it, how to develop characters, how to develop plot, how to show action, they get really excited. And so the writing code begins with that. It begins with all the skills of storytelling. And once you engage students in the storytelling process, it becomes dramatically easier to teach them how to do the technical skills of writing, what I call construction, which is building sentences and paragraphs and mastering grammar and punctuation and editing, and then also analysis, which is trying to figure out what causes what and what kind of patterns can we see in the real world out there. If you start with storytelling, you really get the template for learning all these other skills of writing.
Okay, well, Charlie, you know, that sounds great, and I don't want this to sound like an English course, you know, because we're dealing with a lot of entrepreneurs, we're dealing with business people. They want to know, you know, how they can have a little ta-da, a little pizzazz in their presentations. And let me ask you this. Now, to you, this may sound like, duh, but what is good writing today? And here's what I'm talking about with Twitter, texting, and, you know, so much written shorthand. What is acceptable today? What is effective? What is clarity? You know, it has a change from 5 to 10 years ago.
Well, you know, it has and it hasn't. It has in the sense that we're writing in a lot of different new forms, Twitter and Facebook comments and internet page comments and so forth. So that's a little bit different, and people use a kind of shorthand that they didn't use before. But what hasn't changed is the essential, which is you have to show people who does what to whom or who did what to what. And that's really very simple. It's really a story. Every level of writing is storytelling. At the sentence level, at the paragraph level, at the argument level, everything is about telling a story. And that means you have to specifically say who or what is the subject, what are they doing, and what are they doing it on. It's really that simple.
Okay, let me give you a for instance. Okay. How about you and I, we're putting together a presentation, you know, to say like an agency or something like that, and it's a lot of bullet points, this and that. How do you get into storytelling? What is it? And especially today, it seems like it's cut the crap, get to the point. How do you get into that storytelling?
Well, what you do is you begin with the dilemma that matters for whoever the audience is. If it's a sales audience, you talk about the moment of truth where the seller is encountering difficulty with a prospect. Or if you're talking about teaching, you show a situation where the teacher is struggling to get through to the kid. Whatever it is, you begin with a situation that involves real blood and flesh human beings. That's what everything is really all about at the bottom line. And when you show people doing things, when you show real action, when you show real people, you're going to get your audience's attention. And once you have the audience's attention, you can move in towards some of the other points you want to make. But people need to see and feel what it is that you're talking about. And if they can't do that, you've lost them right away.
So it you know, there's this thing, especially in you know, in the entertainment business, you know, you start with the boom, you start with the pizzazz. That's it. It's almost like you start in mid-story.
That's right. It's called in media res, which means in the middle of the thing. And you need to make the reader care right away. Look, we're in an age where people are absolutely overwhelmed with information. And not only that, information is virtually free. You can go on the computer and download and otherwise access whatever information you want whenever you want it. And so it's not getting access to information that's difficult. It's getting access to clear information that connects with the reader, that connects with energy and focus and purpose. That's the difference between good and bad writing. Does it get to the point, and does it show the reader why it matters for the reader?
So access to clarity is very important.
Absolutely.
Charlie Euchner, this is going to be a crazy question for you. How do you become a good writer? Now, I got to tell you, I'm an author myself.
Mm-hmm.
And when I wrote my first book, Out of the Fog and Into Focus, all of a sudden I realized I was doing so many things wrong.
Yeah.
I think I was on vacation the year that they were talking about punctuation and colons and semicolons,
right,
and do quotation marks, should they go before or after the period? I'm telling you, I was going crazy trying to be concise and trying not to be long-winded. It took me forever to write. Am I the only one?
Well, you're not the only one, but I think what happens in situations like that is people put too much pressure on themselves. They get this idea that this is my one chance to make a big impact with a book, or this is my one chance to make a big impact with a presentation, and they put too much pressure on themselves. I'm really fond of this statement that Ernest Hemingway made. He was once asked, how do you deal with writer's block, which is part of what you're talking about? And he said, what I do is I take great care and I write one true sentence, and I work on that one sentence until I get it right, until it's an absolutely perfect sentence and says exactly what I mean. And then I know that I can do it. And then I write the second sentence, and that usually comes a little easier. And then I do the third. In other words, it's just doing one thing at a time, not putting too much pressure on yourself, but simply saying who does what to whom. It's really that simple, subject, verb, object. And if you can write that one true sentence, as Hemingway puts it, if you can state who does what to whom, period, who does what to whom, period, again and again, you'll be a good writer.
One true sentence after another. Charlie Euchner is with us, and I mean, when it comes to writing, this guy is the last word, period. And when we come on back, I want to ask you, Charlie, many people write the way they speak. Is that acceptable? Is it good? Is it effective? I got to ask you, when we come on back, what works today? So many questions, so little time. I'm Dick Heatherton. Charlie Euchner is with us, and this is Success Again on, guess what? The Success Again Network. Don't go away. And welcome back to Success Again. I'm Dick Heatherton, and we're talking with Charles Euchner. Charlie Euchner, he has a way of connecting with readers, showing people how to make better presentations, and today that's absolutely essential. Every word's got to mean something, and I've been taking notes. I don't know about you, but he was talking about Hemingway, start with one true sentence, one after another. And before we took our break, I asked Charlie about, many people, they write the way they talk. Now, is it acceptable today? Is it good? Is it effective? What works today?
Well, I think you can write the way you talk if you talk clearly. And, the key thing about conversation is you need to tell your audience, whoever you're talking to, what you mean right away. You can't waste time. You can't.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Well, you need to get right to the point. Let me give you an example.
Okay.
One of the reasons people get confused about writing in this day and age is they've gotten used to all kinds of shorthand with Facebook and Twitter and emails and all that other stuff. And what I try to teach people that I work with, my corporate clients and teachers and other people that I work with, is when you're working in those more informal areas, still try to do it the right way. It's like an athlete practicing before a big game. The athlete doesn't just mess around. The athlete tries to go through and do all the little things right in practice so it becomes more automatic when you're in a game situation. And really the same thing is true with writing. If I'm doing an email or if I'm doing a tweet on Twitter or if I'm doing a Facebook comment, I try to use the same basic grammar and structure and vivid nouns and verbs and so forth, so that when I'm writing something more serious or something that I want to be more permanent, that it comes a lot easier. It's a little bit more automatic. And the only way you can do anything well is to do it right in practice as well as right when it comes to game time.
The Writing Code is your book. It's a course, and we want to talk about that a little later on, but I did want to mention it. And Charlie Euchner, people they become so used to sound, bite, timing, meaning, TV and radio stations, they got everything down to approximately 9 seconds.
That's right.
And I contend that MTV is probably responsible for the mass epidemic of attention deficit disorder.
Yeah.
So how do you write effectively and get right to the point today? There's so many things that need to be said in so little time because people have this attention deficit disorder. What's important? How do you prioritize?
Well, I think the thing to do is to focus on one thing at a time. I've been reading a lot of studies on how the brain works, and one of the most interesting things is that there is no such thing as multitasking. The more things
wait. There's no such thing. What do you mean?
Well, you can't pay attention to more than one thing at a time effectively. In fact, there's one brain scientist who says that when you turn your attention from one thing to two things, it's the same drop in brain power as you would have going from a Harvard graduate to an 8-year-old, because the brain is a really powerful organ, but it's also limited in what it can pay attention to at one given time. Its real power is in the long-term memory and in the deep emotions of the brain. And so you can really only pay attention to one thing at a time. So you need to turn off the radio, you need to turn off the TV, you need to turn off your cell phone, and you need to not pay attention to email. Focus on one job at a time, one sentence at a time. Try to be specific and use action verbs, and you'll be good to go.
Charlie, that sounds great. I think in a perfect world, but let's face it, we are filled with distraction. And today, let's face it, you've got noise, you've got distraction and resistance. It equals scattered potential and a whole lot of stress. You get things coming and going at you. It's like you're ducking. Just trying to get some clarity.
But the real successful people in all fields, not just writing, are the ones who are able to focus intently on what they're doing and to achieve a state of flow. That's the term Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi used to talk about that total attention and striving and creative action. And the only way to do it is to screen out the rest of the world, no matter what you're doing, whether it's writing or anything else.
For good writers, I don't care if it's a presentation, you're doing a report or what have you, what's better, morning, noon, night, late night?
Well, that doesn't so much matter as long as you are locked into what you're doing. If you're writing reports or something like that, all that matters is that you're able to focus on it. Now, a lot of writers say what you need to do is set aside one time of day where you're going to be writing and when the phone's going to be off and that kind of thing. And that's great if you can do it. But to me, the most important thing is turn everything off, close the door, don't let anybody interrupt you, because it takes a long time to recover from interruptions. There's some people who say it takes as long as 15 minutes to get back on track from an interruption. So if you're being interrupted every 15 minutes, you're never going to get on track. So you really do need to create that kind of space where you can focus on what you're doing. And when you do that, it really is amazing what you can accomplish if you work, as I said before, one sentence at a time.
One sentence at a time. I love that. And Charlie Euchner, in presentations, let me ask you, what's important? Lots of white space on a page, clarity of thought, preciseness. How about humor? Where does that fit in?
Well, humor is important because when you think about it, a joke is really just a complete story in miniature. It has beginning, middle, and end. It has the premise, the setup, and the delivery. And that's really what every great story is, whether you're talking about Homer's Odyssey or whether you're talking about The Unbearable Lightness of Being or The Wizard of Oz. It's all about setting people up and then giving them something of a twist, something of a surprise. And so that's what keeps people's attention, because we evolved as a species to be on the lookout for surprises. The saber-toothed tiger who would devour us if we weren't alert to that potential surprise.
Charlie Euchner, I wish we had more time. And the writing code, how can people contact you?
Go to the internet, www.thewritingcodesystem.com. Thewritingcodesystem.com.
Charlie Euchner, thank you so much. A little clarity and focus. I like it. I've been taking notes. And this is Success Again.